You ever look back and realize you weren't the daughter? You were the distraction. Yeah, that was me. I grew up in San Diego, sunny weather, cold house, not in temperature, just emotionally. You'd never know from the outside our lawn was always trimmed. My mom made Pinterest-looking casseroles and my sister Savannah. She was their pride and joy, the one who could do no wrong. Me, I was just there, like furniture, like background noise. She could scream fail lie to their faces and they'd still say Savannah's just sensitive. She's going through a lot. Meanwhile, I once forgot to rinse a cup and suddenly I'm disrespectful and ungrateful. It wasn't just favoritism. It was strategic blindness. A year ago it came to a head. Savannah failed her constitutional law midterm. She came home pissed, slammed doors, made a scene. I was in the living room folding laundry when she stormed in and just started blaming me. For what? Apparently I was too loud on the phone last week and stressed her out. I wasn't even home that day. But facts never mattered. Emotion always won in that house. She screamed, "You ruin everything. You ruin me." And my mom didn't even blink. Just looked at me and said, "You've always been difficult." That was the moment. That exact second I realized they didn't just ignore me. They genuinely believed their lives would be easier without me. So I nodded. Didn't cry, didn't shout. Just walked to my room, grabbed my backpack stuffed in what I could, laptop, 2 shirts, charger, some cash I'd been saving from random online tutoring, and left. No goodbye. No one tried to stop me. They didn't even watch me walk out. That night I slept at a sketchy motel with peeling wallpaper and a sink that wouldn't stop leaking. I didn't sleep really, just stared at the ceiling, wondering what the hell I was supposed to do next. No plan, no degree, no safety net. I had $212 in my account, a second-hand Chromebook, and a rage that had calcified into silence. But I had one thing. I knew how to teach. I had spent years helping classmates doing side gigs, explaining things to people who made more money but understood less. So I leaned into it. Next morning, I found a tiny cafe that didn't kick you out if you nursed one $2.50 black coffee for 6 hours. Used their Wi-Fi to apply for every online tutoring job I could find. Rates were low, like insultingly low, but I needed something. I lived on instant noodles and peanut butter packets. Moved into a shared space with 3 other broke 20-somethings who never learned how to do dishes and barely knew my name. It was still better than home, because no one blamed me for anything. No one raised their voice. No one treated me like I owed them the air I breathed. Fast forward 6 months and I was booked solid. Word of mouth was picking up. One client turned into 5 into 10. My schedule was hell, but my bank account was breathing again. So I got a studio. Nothing fancy. Brick walls, weird plumbing, tiny-ass fridge. But it was mine. That first night, I sat on the floor with a microwave burrito and a plastic fork and cried harder than I ever had, not because I was sad, because it was the first time I felt safe. And here's the thing, most people don't get about revenge. Sometimes it's not loud. Sometimes it's not about screaming, blocking people, or dramatic texts. Sometimes revenge is just not needing them anymore, not even thinking about them. But, of course, that didn't last. Because toxic people always circle back, especially when they're drowning. Last week, I got a text from an unknown number. Didn't think much of it. Then I saw the name Deborah Clark, my mom. 6 missed calls, 2 voicemails. WTF, it had been a year. No birthdays, no check-ins, not even a "you okay?" Now suddenly she's calling like nothing happened. My stomach twisted. I didn't answer, just stared at the screen thinking, what do you want from me now? And then it came. Another message, this time from Savannah. Please, it's about school. Can we talk? School? Oh, of course. The golden child needs saving. Guess who they called? I stared at that text from Savannah for a while. Please, it's about school. Can we talk? And for a second I laughed. Out loud, right there in my kitchen. Talk? Savannah never wanted to talk before, unless it was to blame me for something. Now she wants to chat like we're besties, catching up over brunch. Screw that. I left the message on read and went back to work. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't rattle me. You know that weird brain twitch where no matter how much someone's hurt you, your body still reacts like they're family? Yeah, that kicked in. I felt my chest get tight like I was 15 again and bracing for some verbal hit that was definitely coming even if I didn't know when. Still, I didn't reply. Then the next day, they escalated. Mom called. I didn't answer. She called again and again. then left a voicemail that started with "Sweetie" and ended with "Please call us, it's urgent." Sweetie, after calling me a burden, after telling me to leave, after making me feel like a mistake since the day I started breathing, now I'm Sweetie. God. But fine, I was curious, and maybe just a little petty, so I called her back. It rang once before she picked up. Tessa, yeah. There was this silence like she hadn't expected me to actually answer. Then her voice shifted into something fake soft. We've been trying to reach you. Your sister. She's having a hard time again. With school and tuition deadlines. And, well, we're falling behind on bills. There it was. Not a hello, not a how are you. Just help us. Okay, and we need support. Just for a bit. I know things weren't great when you left, but we've all grown and you told me you'd be better off without me. Silence. You said that, out loud, to my face. She exhaled. We were upset. You know how things can get in this house? I'm not part of that house anymore. Another silence, longer this time. Tessa, she said like I was a 5-year-old again. You've always been the strong one. You landed on your feet. Savannah's struggling and because of you. That one landed. I heard it in her breath. She treated me like garbage and you let her. You let her sabotage me, mock me, lie about me, and I left. Quietly. I didn't ask for anything. I built a life. I didn't owe you help then, and I sure as hell don't owe you now. Then I hung up. My hands were shaking, my whole body buzzing with that mix of old fury and new power. Because here's the thing about surviving family trauma, when you finally have distance, their voices get quieter, and your own starts to show up again. The next day, Savannah texted me herself. I know I hurt you. I'm sorry, but I really need help. I got rejected from UCLA. I'm trying again, but we can't afford the prep program. Please, you're the only one doing okay. Oh, now I'm doing okay. Funny, last I checked, I was the problem child, the one who always caused tension, the one they were better off without. So I texted back, you never cared when I was drowning. Why should I care now? Left it at that. But of course they didn't. 3 days later, there was a knock on my apartment door. No heads up, no text, no hey, can we stop by? Just 3 knocks. I checked the peephole. My heart dropped. It was them. All of them. Deborah, my mom, Savannah, and my dad who hadn't said a single word to me since I left. I backed away from the door like it had caught fire. No freaking way. I stood there heart pounding, watching them just exist outside my door like it was casual. Like they hadn't burned every bridge and salted the damn earth on their way out. Then my phone lit up again. Mom, please, just talk to us, please. The knock came again. I should have ignored it, but I didn't. I cracked the door open just a bit, just enough for them to see my face. What the hell are you doing here? Savannah looked down. Dad looked at the wall like he wanted to be anywhere else. But my mom, she stepped forward like we were about to hug or something. We didn't know what else to do. We need you. You needed me 2 years ago, when I was crying in my room and you were telling me to keep it down. Her face twitched. I've changed, she said. We've all changed. You still showed up to my door without asking. No one said anything. Then Savannah stepped forward. Her voice cracked. I really messed up. I know that. I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I'm scared. I need help. And for a moment, I almost softened. Almost. Because there it was again. That part of me that wanted to believe maybe they finally saw it. Maybe they finally saw me. But then I remembered something. That night I left, I'd paused at the front door, just long enough to see if anyone would stop me. They didn't. They didn't even ask if I had somewhere safe to go. And that version of me, the scared, tired, invisible girl they shoved out, she deserved better than this reunion. I took a deep breath. You don't get to need me now. Not like this. Not because everything's falling apart and I'm the only one who made it. Tessa, my mom said, voice breaking, please don't do this. I didn't do anything. I survived. That's all. And I don't owe you a damn thing for that. Then I shut the door. Didn't slam it. Didn't lock it loudly. Just shut it. Quiet and final. They stayed out there for a while. I could hear them talking, crying maybe. I didn't listen. Instead, I sat on my couch and let the silence wrap around me like armor. Because this time, the silence was mine. They didn't come back the next day. No calls, no texts, no more knocks at my door. Just silence. And for once, it wasn't tense. It didn't feel like I was waiting for the next shoe to drop or the next guilt trip to land in my inbox. It felt clean, but I still couldn't sit still. I kept pacing my apartment, opening cabinets, checking my phone like something might suddenly make sense. It didn't. So I put my phone on airplane mode and went out. Just out. Didn't even know where I was going. Just started walking. I ended up in this bookstore cafe in Hillcrest. Quiet, warm, smelled like espresso and old pages. I ordered a black coffee, found a seat in the corner, and finally let myself breathe. And yeah, I know it sounds dramatic, but when you've lived your whole life feeling like you have to earn space to exist, just sitting in public and not being in anyone's way, that's a big deal. I pulled out my laptop just to pretend I was doing something and found myself staring at the screen for a while. Then, almost by instinct, I opened a blank doc and started typing. Not a business plan, not work, just words. Stuff I hadn't said out loud. Stuff I thought I'd buried. Stuff I didn't know still lived in my chest. Things like, I wasn't the broken one. I was the ignored one. You didn't love me less. You didn't love me at all. Every time you said she needs more help than you, what you meant was, you're not worth the effort. I wrote for hours. Didn't edit. Didn't reread. I just got it all out. By the time I looked up, it was almost 7 p.m. The cafe had dimmed their lights. The barista was cleaning the espresso machine. I saved the doc, closed the laptop, and walked out into the cool night air. And something was different. Not fixed, not healed, just lighter. That weekend, I had lunch with Naomi. She's one of those friends who doesn't flinch when you drop hard truths in the middle of a salad. She took one look at me and said, "You look like someone who slammed a door and meant it." I laughed harder than I had in weeks. I told her everything. The calls, the visit, the crying on my doorstep, all of it. She listened, then just nodded and said, "You're not a villain. You're a boundary with legs." And God, that stuck. Later that night, I was lying in bed scrolling my phone because self-care is inconsistent, and I saw an old photo pop up in my memories. Me and Savannah. We must have been like 9 and 12. Matching Christmas pajamas, forced smiles. You could already see it though. The distance. The way I leaned just a little away. The way her smile didn't reach her eyes. I almost deleted it, but instead I just stared at it. And I remembered something. That year I had saved up my allowance to buy my mom a necklace for Christmas. I was so proud. Wrapped it myself. She opened it, barely looked at it, and said, "Oh, well, Savannah got me perfume. That's more my style." And that was it. No thanks, no hug, nothing. That moment, that was the first time I felt truly invisible. I was 10. And now I was 25, staring at that photo, realizing it had never really been about what I did or didn't do. It was about who they decided I was. And the thing is, once people decide what box to put you in, they'll do anything to keep you in it. Even if that means ignoring who you become. A few days later, Malik called. He's been my sounding board since college. Calm, no bullshit type of guy. The kind of person who can read your voice like a mood ring. "You good?" he asked. Define good. Like, not spiraling. Small spiral, controlled. I told him about the doorstep ambush, the way it shook something loose, how I couldn't tell if I felt proud or just emotionally hungover. "You did what most people never do," he said. "You enforced a boundary when it actually cost you something. Felt more like burning a bridge. Maybe. But you're on the other side now, and it's quieter." He paused. That's the thing about healing, T. It doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels like grief in slow motion. Damn. He always does that. Just casually drops a line that punches you in the soul. Later that night, I went back to that doc I wrote in the cafe. Added a line at the top. "This isn't revenge, it's recovery." And that felt more true than anything else I'd said in months. Because I wasn't trying to make them suffer. I wasn't planning a takedown. I just didn't want to bleed every time their name came up. That's the kind of peace no one talks about. The quiet kind. The kind where you stop performing strength and just are strong. Because you're not carrying their weight anymore. You're finally walking without it. Last Thursday, I got an email with the subject line, "Are you available for an interview?" I almost deleted it. Thought it was spam or some phishing scam about a fake job in blockchain lifestyle consulting or whatever's trending this week. But then I opened it. It was real. A college admissions podcast wanted to interview me. They'd heard about my prep platform from a student's TikTok. Apparently, she credited my course for jumping her SAT by 230 points. I didn't even know she'd tagged me. The email said, "We're highlighting underrepresented educators who built something from nothing. We'd love to feature your story." My story. Funny, a year ago I didn't think I had one. Back then I was just some girl trying to survive on $5 in Wi-Fi. But now, I was paying rent with money I earned, teaching kids how to believe in themselves. So I said yes. The day of the interview, I was weirdly nervous. Not because of the questions. I knew my work, I knew the data, I had the receipts. But because they were going to ask me where it all started. And that meant going there. Not physically, emotionally. The night I left, the silence, the motel, the way my mom didn't even look up from her phone when I walked out the door. I tried to write a script for myself. Something polished, inspiring, focused on overcoming adversity without naming names. But every time I started, I stopped. Because what was the point of telling my story if I kept sanding down the truth? So I did the interview. And I told the truth. Not all of it, not the darkest stuff, but enough. I said, I was underestimated, ignored, pushed out. I didn't leave because I was rebellious. I left because I was disposable. And the host just nodded. Didn't look shocked, didn't interrupt, just let me keep going. I said, the work I do now, it's not just about test scores. It's about giving kids the confidence I didn't get until I was already on my own. When we finished, the host said, you sound more like a survivor than a success story. That hit, because yeah, I was both. Later that night, I posted a clip from the interview on my Instagram, just a 30-second bit where I said, I used to believe I had to earn space. Now I build spaces for others. I didn't tag anyone, didn't name drop, didn't throw shade. But you know how family watches silently from the sidelines? Yeah. I woke up the next morning to a DM from Savannah. Just one word. Wow. That was it. Not sure what she meant. Could have been sarcastic. Could have been genuine. Didn't really matter. I didn't respond. But the weird thing is that DM pulled me into a memory I hadn't visited in years. It was right after I got my learner's permit. Savannah was supposed to be teaching me how to drive. We got in the car, and before we even left the driveway, she said, You're never gonna get this. You overthink everything. And I believed her. I believed her so hard that I didn't try to drive again for almost a year. And that was her thing. Always the little cuts. Never outright cruel. Just enough to make you doubt yourself. That memory stayed with me the whole day. But not in a sad way. More like clarity. That weekend, I went to a local conference for small business owners. There was a panel on digital growth, and I ended up next to this woman named Denise Black, mid-40s, absolutely no filter. We got to talking during the break, and when I told her what I did, she gave me this look and said, Damn, you got fire in your spine, don't you? I laughed. Is that a compliment? Hell yeah. Most folks build businesses. You built boundaries. That's harder. Then she said something I didn't expect. You should write a book. I choked on my iced coffee. About what? Surviving your family with only $200 and a Wi-Fi password. She didn't laugh. She just said, Exactly. On the way home, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not the book idea. The fire in your spine part. Because no one had ever said that to me before. Growing up, if I stood up for myself, I was mouthy. If I didn't back down, I was difficult. But now I was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, my strength wasn't a defense mechanism. Maybe it was a gift. I spent the next few days doing what I do best, working. Built out a new module for my course, took on 2 new tutoring clients, updated my website, cleaned my kitchen for the first time in, don't ask. And then just when I thought things were leveling out again, I got a letter in the mail. Like an actual letter. From my dad. The handwriting was shaky. The envelope looked like it had been handled by a raccoon. But it was him. I didn't even know he had my address. Inside was a folded sheet of paper with 3 short paragraphs. No dear, no love, Dad. Just this, I saw your interview. Your mom cried when she watched it. Savannah too. I don't know how to say this right, but we weren't good to you. I wasn't good to you. I thought staying quiet was neutral. I see now it was betrayal. I sat there holding that letter like it might catch fire. Because what the hell do you do with that? It wasn't an apology. Not really. But it was something. Too little. Definitely. Too late? Maybe. But still, it was the first real thing he'd ever said to me. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel angry. I felt tired. Like my body finally understood how long I'd been carrying weight that didn't belong to me. I folded the letter back up and stuck it in a drawer. Didn't burn it, didn't frame it. Just put it away. Some things don't need a reaction. Some things just need to be released. The interview went viral. Okay, not like Beyoncé level viral, but big enough. A college prep TikTok reposted a clip. Then a study influencer stitched it and said, This woman, she's who I wish I had in high school. Within a week, I gained 12,000 followers. My site traffic doubled. Course sales spiked. Emails flooded in from students' parents, even counselors saying things like, "You made me feel seen." It should have felt amazing, and in a way it did. But then came the second wave, the other kind of attention, the kind you pray doesn't show up when you're finally at peace. It started with a DM from a girl I didn't recognize. "Hey, are you related to Savannah Clark? Just wondering, she mentioned you in a live stream." A what? I clicked the link. It was a replay from 2 nights ago. Savannah, hair curled, lip gloss perfect, sitting on her bed like a sad but relatable influencer. Ring light in full glow. The caption, "Why I haven't spoken to my sister in years. You've got to be kidding me." I watched the first 2 minutes. She cried. Not like sobbing, just the glossy kind of tears influencers perfect over time. She said things like, "We were close, until jealousy tore us apart. She always thought she had to compete with me. I wish we could go back." Pause. Did she seriously just try to rebrand the narrative? I closed the app before I threw my phone, because I knew exactly what that was. It wasn't regret, it wasn't honesty. It was damage control. Now that my story had reached, now that strangers were saying this girl deserves the world, she needed a role. Any role. And guess what's easiest? The misunderstood sister. I didn't respond, didn't call her out, because I wasn't about to play tag with someone who turned my trauma into a TikTok plotline. But the next day, my mom posted a photo, a grainy, over-filtered throwback of the 4 of us. Me, Savannah, her dad, at some beach picnic we took when I was maybe 11. Caption, no tag, no mention of me. But it was obvious who the post was about. And yeah, part of me wanted to throw my laptop out the window. But instead I texted Naomi. "They're doing the full PR tour now." She replied with one line, "Stay higher. Don't explain to people who already chose their version of you." Still, I couldn't shake the feeling. Because when you've been invisible your whole life, it's a weird kind of pain to suddenly be visible, but through someone else's filter. They weren't reaching out to reconnect. They were reaching out to reclaim. 3 days later, I got invited to speak at an education tech conference. Big deal. Actual speakers, panels, badges, those awkward cocktail networking things I usually skip. I was nervous, yeah, but also proud. I wore my favorite blazer, the one I bought the week I launched the course. Pale gray, sharp shoulders, made me feel like I actually belonged in rooms like that. The panel was called "Power from the Margins: Building Systems When You're Left Out of Them." That title alone, whew. I sat next to 2 other women, both from communities that were ignored, pushed aside, counted out. We told our stories, how we built what we needed for ourselves because no one else did. When it was my turn, I said, "I didn't start out trying to be seen. I just didn't want to disappear." That line made the room go quiet. In a good way. Afterward, people came up to me, said they saw themselves in my words, asked to collaborate. One woman literally cried while telling me her niece was dealing with a toxic home and now she had hope. I went back to my hotel that night feeling full, grounded, like maybe finally the work was bigger than the pain. Until my phone buzzed. Again. This time, a tagged comment. My mom, on someone's post about the panel. "So proud of everything my daughter's done. We always believed in her." I felt like I'd been punched. You believed in me. You told me I was the problem. That your life would be easier without me. That I was the reason Savannah was falling apart. But now that I'm doing well, it's we. Screw that. I screenshotted it, saved it in a folder on my phone titled Gaslight Files. Didn't reply. Didn't block her. Didn't feed the fire. But I knew I had to say something eventually. Not to them. To myself. Because if I didn't claim my story now, they'd twist it into something I wouldn't recognize. 2 nights later, I went live on Instagram. Only the second time I'd ever done that. I didn't prep anything. No script, no lights, just me sitting in my living room with a hoodie and a glass of wine. I said, "Some of you have seen a version of my family online lately. I've stayed quiet because I thought silence was stronger, but now I'm realizing silence can look like guilt when it's really just grief." Pause. I didn't cut ties with my family because of one fight. I walked away after years of being told I didn't matter. I wasn't jealous. I wasn't angry. I was surviving. I still am. I let it sit. Then ended the live. 15 minutes, that's it. But it reached exactly who it needed to. After that, the PR tour stopped. No more sad posts, No more sister live streams, no more throwbacks to fake moments. Just quiet. Real quiet this time. And honestly, it felt like a funeral. Not in a tragic way, just final. Like the part of me that still hoped they'd say sorry finally gave up. And that version of me, the girl who stayed small so they could feel big, got to rest. 3 weeks passed. Nothing from them. No calls, no texts, no sad hashtags or vague subtweets. And you know what? It was peaceful. No fake we've grown. No guilt-wrapped manipulation. No requests disguised as reconciliation. Just silence. And this time it didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like freedom. I spent the next few days pouring myself into work. I launched a mentorship program, opened spots for first-gen college applicants, started writing again. Not about them, about what comes after. Because no one tells you what to do with yourself once the anger runs out. Like, yeah, you cut off the toxicity. You enforce the boundary. You finally say the thing they were never ready to hear. But then what? What do you do with the space they leave behind? For me, it started with plants. I know sounds ridiculous, but I bought this little pothose one morning while running errands. I named her Frankie. She sat on my windowsill like she owned the damn apartment. And every day I'd water her, rotate her toward the light, wipe her leaves. There was something about watching her thrive in a place where she was never yelled at, never blamed, never told she was too much. It just hit. Felt like I was caring for some tiny part of myself. So I bought another, and another. Soon my place looked like a small jungle with Wi-Fi. My friends joked that I was building a greenhouse for my trauma. Maybe I was, but at least now I could breathe in it. One morning I sat on the floor surrounded by plants, a laptop, and cold coffee, and I thought, I want to build a life where my past doesn't need to be a disclaimer. That became my mantra. Not prove them wrong, not show them what they lost. Just build something where their absence isn't a wound but a choice. I never did respond to that comment from my mom. Never messaged Savannah back. Never opened another letter from my dad. And every time I thought maybe I should, I'd ask myself, would this change anything? Or just reopen something I've finally let heal? And every time the answer was the same, let it be. One afternoon I got a message request from an unfamiliar name. I hesitated. I almost deleted it without reading, but something told me to check. It was from a girl named Maya. She said she was 17. Her sister used to bully her and her parents ignored it. She said she saw my live video, the one where I talked about grief and silence, and it made her feel like she wasn't broken. She said, I thought I was just dramatic, but now I realize I've just never been safe. I read that line like 10 times. Then I cried, not out of sadness, out of recognition. Because that was the point. Not revenge, not winning, not making anyone regret anything. But this, turning my own survival into someone else's validation. Giving my story back to people who still needed to hear it. A few nights later, I was sitting with Naomi at her apartment, drinking boxed wine and eating overpriced cheese like we were living the dream. She looked at me and said, "You seem like you're not fighting anymore." And it hit me. She was right. I wasn't fighting to be seen, to be loved, to be enough. I wasn't proving or explaining or justifying. I was just here, living. One morning, a new student booked a private coaching session. After we finished, her mom emailed me directly. She said her daughter had been struggling for years, terrified of disappointing everyone. She said, "I don't know what you said, but she came out of her room and said, 'I think I can do this.' That's a first." I sat there reading that email over my coffee, and all I could think was, I used to need that kind of belief from people who never gave it. Now I give it to others. And somehow, that was enough. More than enough. So here's where I leave it. I don't have some dramatic, and then they begged me to come home and I refused ending. There was no grand apology, no perfect closure. But here's what I do have. A business I built from nothing. A name that no longer makes me flinch. A home that's mine right down to the crooked shelf I still haven't fixed. Friends who see me not as backup, not as a sidekick, but as whole. And peace. Real earned, hard-won peace. The kind where your heart doesn't jump at every unknown number. The kind where you wake up and don't immediately check if you've disappointed someone. The kind that's quiet and slow and permanent. I don't think I'll ever fully forget what happened. That kind of hurt rewires you. But I'm no longer trying to heal in the way people romanticize. I'm just living. Taking care of myself, paying my bills, petting my plants, saying no without guilt. And when I look in the mirror now, I don't see the girl who had to beg to be loved. I see the woman who walked away and never looked back. Not out of spite, but out of survival. And then, out of strength, they used to say I was too sensitive, that I needed to toughen up. They thought they were breaking me down. But really, they were making room for who I was always meant to be. And she's doing just fine. Story 2. I always thought the worst thing someone could steal from you was your money. I was wrong. It's your peace, your trust, your future. And sometimes that thief shares your blood. My name is Tessa. I'm 29, and last year I found out my older sister Madeline had been sleeping with my husband. We'd been married for 5 years. She'd been my sister for 29. People always say betrayal feels like a punch in the gut. But it wasn't that. It was more like drowning. Silent, slow, realizing too late that you're already under. Madeline was the golden child. 2 years older, always sharper, always prettier, at least according to my mother. When she walked into a room, people looked. When I walked in, people asked if I was the younger one. But I loved her anyway, looked up to her, trusted her. Which is why I never saw it coming. It started with little things. My husband Carter suddenly had work meetings on nights we were supposed to spend together. My sister started showing up to our place uninvited, always with wine, always alone. I figured she was going through one of her single-phase spirals. Then came the whispers. An old college friend of Carter's said something weird at a dinner party. Something like Madeline and Carter have gotten close, huh? I laughed it off. Until the night I came home early and found them in our kitchen. Not kissing, not touching, just laughing. But it was the way she touched his arm, the way he didn't flinch. I knew. That night, I didn't say a word. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I simply stared at them, then walked into the bedroom, locked the door, and lay on my side of the bed, pretending not to hear the quiet panic outside the door. The next morning, Carter confessed. Madeline had been helping him through our marital rough patches. You know, the ones I didn't know we were having. He said they'd only kissed. Once. I didn't believe him. But I wasn't about to beg a liar for more lies. I asked for a divorce the next day. Carter moved out within a week. Madeline didn't call, didn't text, until a month later, when they posted a photo together. Matching scarves, a vineyard. Caption, sometimes the right love finds you at the wrong time. I threw up. For a while I disappeared. Left the city, stayed with a friend out in the suburbs, got a new job, started therapy. Let the silence clean me out. Then I met someone new. Luca. He wasn't charming like Carter. He was quiet, gentle. A widower with a 7-year-old daughter named Nova. I met him at a nonprofit event where we were both volunteering. We ended up assigned to the same table assembling care kits for a women's shelter. He offered me a granola bar and asked if I liked jazz. It was the first time in months someone had asked me a question without an agenda. We took things slow. Luca never rushed, never pushed, never made me feel like love had a deadline. Nova called me Miss Tessa for a while. Then one day, just Tess. Eventually, I moved in. We started building a life that didn't rely on pain. Then came the family dinner. My mother's 60th birthday. She begged me to come, said it was important, said she wanted her girls together again. What she really wanted was a photo, a smiling moment for Facebook. I wasn't planning to go, but Luca encouraged me. You don't have to prove anything, he said. But if you do show up, do it for you. So I said yes. And I brought Luca and Nova. Because if Madeline could parade around with my ex-husband at a vineyard, I could show up with someone who actually loved me. We arrived late. The living room was full. My mother beamed when she saw Nova and wrapped her in a hug before even greeting me. Carter was already there, standing next to Madeline like he was born for our family portrait. They stiffened when they saw Luca, even more when they saw Nova. I smiled sweetly. Hi everyone, this is Luca, and this is Nova, their family. My sister didn't smile back. Dinner was tense. Madeline wouldn't look at me. Carter kept clearing his throat like he had something to say but didn't know how. Luca was calm, soft-spoken. He helped pass dishes, thanked my mother, laughed when Nova spilled her juice. It was quiet, until it wasn't. You really had to bring them. Huh, Madeline hissed across the table during dessert. I blinked. Excuse me, this is Mom's birthday, not your redemption tour. The room froze. Carter set down his fork. My mother looked away. Luca reached under the table and squeezed my hand. I kept my voice calm. You slept with my husband, Mads. If anyone needs redemption here, it's not me. She scoffed. You're just bitter because I ended up with someone who actually wanted me. Nova looked confused. Luca stood up slowly. Come on, sweetheart, let's go water Grandma's plants. He walked Nova out of the room, leaving me with them. You know what's funny? I said, looking at my sister. I still would have forgiven you if you had just admitted it. If you'd said you made a mistake. Carter stared at the floor. Madeline folded her arms. It wasn't a mistake. You never loved him the way he needed. I laughed. You mean emotionally babysitting a grown man while you trash-talked your own sister behind her back? That kind of love. She didn't answer. My father cleared his throat. Maybe we should all? No, I cut in. Let her say it. Let her explain how betraying your own blood makes sense. How marrying my husband while pretending to be my sister is a justified life choice. My mother stood. Enough, Tessa. I stood too. You're right. It is enough. And I walked out. Luca was on the porch with Nova. The air was cool, clean. Everything okay? He asked. I nodded. Everything's finally making sense. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay awake next to Luca, watching the ceiling shift with headlights passing outside. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard her voice again. You're just bitter? I ended up with someone who actually wanted me. Funny how she said it, like she didn't steal that someone from me. I didn't cry. Not anymore. That phase was over. But I did start thinking about how betrayal never comes clean. It comes wrapped in smiles and silence, in forced dinners, in birthday cards signed with names that don't belong together. Madeline and Carter, my sister and my ex-husband. I couldn't even say it without tasting metal in my mouth. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My phone had blown up overnight. Not from friends, not even from family, from strangers. Apparently, someone had posted a thread on a local women's forum, anonymous, but the details were unmistakable. My sister slept with my husband. Now she's married to him and wants me to pretend it's fine. Every line read like it was pulled from my life, down to the dinner, the daughter, the fake smiles. But it wasn't my post. No username, no trace. But the comments brutal. Thousands of women weighing in, supporting, sharing similar stories, calling Madeline a sociopath, dragging Carter for being a pathetic midlife cliché. I scrolled in stunned silence, and then I got a text from my cousin Margot. You didn't post it right, because Madeline is losing it. I didn't respond, because I hadn't posted it, but I wasn't mad that someone did. An hour later, my mother called. Tessa, you need to fix this. Fix what? Your sister is devastated. Devastated. That word hit like a slap. She's crying. She says she's being harassed, that people are messaging her. I almost laughed. Good. Don't say that. She didn't cry when she slept with my husband. She didn't cry when she posted their engagement photo. She didn't cry when she looked me in the eye at dinner and told me I was just bitter. But now she's crying because strangers are telling the truth. Silence. Then my mom said the thing that made everything snap. I wish you had just kept it in the family. I blinked. You mean like how she kept her hands off my husband? She made a mistake. No, I said coldly. She made a choice, repeatedly. My mom didn't argue. She just sighed. And for the first time, I heard it, the exhaustion. Not from sympathy, but from inconvenience. My pain had become a PR problem. I hung up, stared at my phone for a long time. Then I did what I should have done months ago. I blocked Madeline. I blocked Carter. And I made a folder in my phone called Proof of Peace. Every time I got a kind message, I saved it there. Every time someone told me I deserved better, I screenshot it. Not for validation, but for memory. Because gaslighting comes dressed like family. And I needed receipts to remind myself I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting, I was just done. Luca noticed my silence that evening. We were in the kitchen. Nova was watching cartoons. He handed me a mug of tea, kissed the top of my head, and didn't say a word. That's why I loved him. Because he didn't try to fix what wasn't his to fix. He just stood beside me, held the weight with me. Did you know? I asked quietly. He looked at me. Know what? That Carter still brings me up. Still tries to twist things. Luca nodded slowly. I knew. He called me once. What? Luca set down his mug. He wanted to warn me. Said you were manipulative. That you needed constant validation. That you came with drama. I stared. And I hung up. Just like that. Because some men don't need to be taught how to respect you. They just do. The next hit came 2 days later. From HR, my job had received a complaint. Anonymous, of course. Claimed I was disruptive in the workplace, emotionally unstable, and had caused friction between coworkers due to personal problems. My manager called me in, clearly uncomfortable. I don't believe it, she said. but we have to document it. I nodded. Can I ask to see the original report? She hesitated. It's against policy to share the source. But you can confirm? Was there mention of my family, a sister? She didn't answer. Didn't have to. That's when I knew Madeline had tried to take my career too. I drove home in silence, parked in our driveway. But instead of going inside, I sat in the car. Let the stillness wrap around me. She wasn't done. She'd taken my husband, tried to steal my peace. Now she wanted to smear my name. Why? Because I moved on. Because I didn't beg to be kept. Because I didn't shatter the way she hoped I would. And some people, they hate when you survive them. Later that night, I got an email from a name I didn't recognize. Subject line, your sister's secrets. The body of the message was short. You don't know me, but I know Carter. And you deserve to know what they've done. Let me know if you want to talk. Attach 3 screenshots. One was a receipt from a hotel. 2 months before the divorce. 2 names, 1 room. Another was a message from Madeline to a friend. She'll never find out. He's already halfway out the door. I'm just speeding things up. The last one. A photo. Carter and Madeline. Together. In my favorite restaurant. On my birthday. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I didn't believe it, but because I finally understood. They didn't just break my heart. They planned to. There's a silence that comes after betrayal. Not the silence of peace. The silence of strategy. After reading those screenshots, the hotel receipt, the text, the photo, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I took a breath, saved everything to my proof of peace folder, and made a plan. Because I wasn't just going to survive this, I was going to make sure no one ever called me the problem again. The first thing I did was file a formal complaint at work. I printed the email HR received. Then I submitted my own professionally written backed with documentation. I noted the timing, the family connections, the sudden escalation after a private family incident. I also included a note. I have reason to believe this was retaliation rooted in personal matters unrelated to my role or conduct. I didn't mention Madeline by name, but HR knew. They were quiet, then careful, then cautious. The complaint was dropped. Luca found me sitting at the kitchen table the next morning, sorting receipts into piles. What are you doing? He asked, smiling gently. Inventory, I said, of my life, of what I had lost, of what I had left. He didn't ask questions, just poured me coffee and sat across from me. Nova wandered in moments later, holding a crayon drawing with all 3 of us holding hands under a rainbow. She'd drawn herself with a cape. I smiled at her, kissed her forehead, and thought she has no idea how much she saved me. That weekend, my cousin Margot hosted a small family brunch. I almost didn't go, but something in me wanted to be seen. Not as the girl who got left, not as the sister who caused a stir, just as me, the one still standing. When I walked in with Luca and Nova, people went quiet. Then a few nodded, smiled, some even hugged me. Madeline wasn't there. Carter wasn't invited. Word travels fast in families. And after that anonymous forum post, the screenshots that mysteriously circulated in our family group chat, they couldn't hide anymore. After brunch, my uncle pulled me aside. Just so you know, he said your dad's been reading everything. I raised an eyebrow. He doesn't say much, but he's watching. And I think he's realizing things he didn't want to admit before. That hit hard. Because all my life, my dad had been quiet in the face of conflict. Passive, detached, always telling me to be the bigger person. But now, maybe even he couldn't ignore what was unfolding. 2 days later, I got a text from Madeline. Blocked number, but I recognized her rhythm instantly. You're seriously dragging this out. We're family. I didn't steal him. You lost him. You always play the victim. It's exhausting. I stared at the messages, heart pounding, not with hurt, but with pure, calm finality. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even pretending to be. And something about that freed me. Because closure doesn't come from apologies. It comes when you stop expecting them. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because life has a rhythm of its own. A way of setting the record straight without your permission. And karma sometimes wears a very expensive dress. That same week, Carter lost his job. Not because of me. Because he made the mistake of sleeping with a client. Someone powerful. Someone who didn't care about his charming but misunderstood routine. It hit the news in a small corner of our local professional network. Quiet, but not quiet enough. I found out through Margot, who texted me a link with a 1-word caption. Boom. Apparently Madeline didn't take it well. They were seen arguing in a restaurant. He moved into a hotel 2 days later. and within a week she posted a black and white selfie with a caption that said, "Sometimes people show you who they are. Believe them." Oh, the irony. Luca read the post out loud and looked at me. "You think she gets it now?" I shook my head. "She's not hurt, she's humiliated. Big difference." He leaned forward. "And you?" I looked at him, really looked at him, at the man who held me when I couldn't hold myself, at the man who helped Nova build blanket forts on rainy days, at the man who never made me feel like I had to earn his respect. "I'm not angry anymore," I said, and I meant it. The real turning point came the following weekend. It was my mother's idea. A family dinner. Again. This time she begged me to come, said she wanted to make things right, said Madeline wouldn't be there. I almost declined. But Luca, ever the quiet wisdom in my chaos, said, "Go. Just don't go to prove anything. Go because you've already won." So I did. I walked in with my head high, wearing the green dress Madeline once told me made me look too serious. My father stood when I walked in. So did my mother. That had never happened before. And after dinner, my mom pulled me aside and said something I didn't expect. "I should have protected you better." I didn't cry. I didn't say it was okay. I just nodded. Because sometimes that's all that's left between broken things. Not forgiveness, but a full stop. That night as Luca drove us home, I stared out the window and thought about everything I had lost. A marriage. A sister. A version of myself who believed loyalty was a guarantee. And yet, I didn't feel empty. I felt clean. Like someone had finally opened a window in a room I didn't know had been locked for years. I turned to Luca. "Thank you," I said. He smiled. "For what?" "For not making me choose between healing and love." He reached across the console and took my hand. "You were always going to find both. I never planned to see her again. Not at a wedding, not at a birthday, definitely not at a baby shower, which is exactly where fate decided to test me one final time. My cousin Margot was expecting her first. She invited everyone, including Madeline. I didn't even realize she was on the guest list until I walked in with Luca and Nova and spotted her in the far corner, standing alone, wine glass in hand, wearing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The energy shifted the moment we made eye contact. Not dramatic, just tense, like the air thinned a little. But I smiled. 'Cause I wasn't afraid anymore. She didn't come over right away. She lingered behind conversations, laughed too loudly, avoided my gaze, until the cake was cut and I walked out onto the back patio for some air. That's when I heard her voice. "You look good, Tessa." I turned slowly. Madeline stood in the doorway, arms crossed, wine nearly gone. "You always did pull off quiet strength," she added. I studied her. Same curated confidence, same sharp eyes scanning for weakness. But this time she found none. "Thanks," I said simply. She looked down, then back up. "Carter's back with his ex, the one before you." My eyebrows lifted. Didn't realize I needed an update. She exhaled. "I don't know why I said that." "Yes, you do." Silence. Then I messed up. There it was. Finally. But not the way I thought it would feel. Because even as the words hung between us, I didn't feel triumph, or pity, or even anger. I just felt done. "You didn't just mess up, Mads. You made a series of choices that left wreckage behind." She swallowed. "I know. And the part that stings the most," I added. "You didn't stop. Even after it was over. Even after I moved on. You kept going, trying to smear me, hurt me. I was jealous," she admitted quietly. "I thought I won, but then you came back stronger, and I didn't know how to handle it." I nodded. "You didn't win, Madeline. You settled." That landed. Her eyes dropped. "You said I always get everything I said. But what I got, I earned. I didn't steal. I didn't lie. I didn't climb over someone else's heartbreak to feel better about myself." "I know," she whispered. A beat passed. Then I took a step forward. "I don't hate you." Her eyes flicked up, surprised. "But I don't trust you. And I'm done trying to fix what you broke." She looked like she wanted to speak again. But I'd already said what mattered. I turned and walked back inside, leaving her in the doorway. Later that night, Luca asked if I was okay. I nodded. "She apologized," I said. "Sort of." He didn't press. Just pulled me closer on the couch and wrapped an arm around me. "You don't owe anyone your peace," he said. "I know," I whispered. "That's why I kept it." Months passed. Nova turned 8. We threw her a party in the backyard with balloons, homemade cupcakes, and a unicorn piñata. She wore a cape again, same one from her crayon drawing. At the end of the night, she curled up beside me on the couch and asked, "Do you think I'll be brave like you one day?" I looked at her. At her messy curls, her icing-stained cheeks, her wide, hopeful eyes. "You already are," I said. Eventually, people stopped asking about Madeleine. She and Carter stayed apart. She floated from one job to another, posted vague quotes about healing and karma, slowly faded from the center of our family gatherings. I didn't block her again, but I didn't let her in either. Boundaries are bridges for the people who deserve a second chance. She hadn't earned hers yet. Luca and I started talking about moving. Not because we needed to escape, because we were ready to start something new together. A little house with a garden, a second bedroom Nova could paint however she wanted, a porch swing for slow evenings with coffee and silence. It was the future I never imagined back when my life was coming apart. And now it was the one I'd built piece by piece with love that didn't need to hurt to feel real. One afternoon, I sat down and opened that old folder. Proof of peace. I scrolled through the screenshots, the messages, the photos, the reminders of who I used to be, how close I came to believing I deserved the pain I was handed. I didn't delete the folder, but I created a new one. Proof of growth. In it, I placed a picture Nova drew of our family. Me, Luca, her. A rainbow overhead. She'd drawn herself with 2 capes this time. I guess she wanted me to have one too. And just like that, I knew the past didn't define me. It simply proved I could survive it. And from the ashes of betrayal, I had built something stronger. Not perfect, not loud, but real. And finally, mine. Story 3. You ever hear something so small, so seemingly ordinary, and yet it cracks your whole world in half? That happened to me a week ago. And I still feel like I'm holding the broken pieces in my hands, trying to figure out if I'm crazy or just finally seeing things clearly. My name's Marcus. I'm 33. For the last 6 years, I've been in a relationship with a woman named Elise. She's 27, smart, hilarious, the kind of person who turns every dull conversation into a stand-up routine. We'd been engaged for about a year, and our wedding was at the time 2 weeks away. Now, there's no wedding. And I'm sleeping on a friend's couch, wondering how I missed the red flags waving in my face. But let me back up. Elise and I live on a nice chunk of land, a little outside the city, enough space for me to build things which I love doing. That night, I was working on this fire pit area and a pergola in the backyard. Something cozy for the fall. Elise was inside making dinner. Around sunset, I walked back to the house to grab a drink. Sweat on my neck, hands covered in dirt, the usual. I stepped through the sliding glass door and immediately heard Elise talking on speakerphone. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the voice on the other end. It was her sister's husband, Caleb. I only caught a few lines before she noticed me and turned the speaker off. "Caleb, where the hell is Mia? She's not picking up. Been trying all day." "Elise, she just left. She should be home in like 30 minutes. I froze. Not in a dramatic way, just one of those quiet, cold moments where your brain flags something as off but you're not sure why yet. Because here's the thing, Mia hadn't been at our place that day. At all. The last time we saw her was yesterday when she dropped by to help Elise pick table settings for the wedding. So why lie? I asked Elise casually what that was about. She said, "Oh, Caleb couldn't reach Mia." I texted her to let her know he's looking for her. Harmless. Except, it wasn't. Because if Caleb couldn't reach Mia and Elise knew that, why did she say Mia just left our house? Why lie about where she was? That night, I barely slept. I tried convincing myself it was nothing. That maybe Mia had stopped by briefly and I missed it. That maybe Elise was just confused. But every time I thought about it, the knots in my stomach got tighter. By 1 a.m., I caved. I checked Elise's phone. Not something I ever thought I'd do. But I knew her passcode and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. And just like that, everything changed. There were hundreds of messages between Elise and Mia. Not just chats, not, "Hey, don't forget the flower girl's dress" kind of stuff. I'm talking about detailed conversations covering Mia's 6-month-long affair with a coworker, a guy she'd been sneaking around with during her lunch breaks after work, even weekends when Caleb thought she was with Elise. And Elise? She was helping her cover it up. They joked about it, strategized together. Elise gave her tips on how to lie better. They even talked trash about Caleb, called him boring, predictable, a little too into being a dad. They have a toddler, for God's sake. Reading those messages made me feel physically sick. It was like watching Elise morph into a stranger in real time. I sat there on the cold bathroom floor scrolling through betrayal after betrayal, not by the woman I was marrying, but by the woman I thought I knew. She didn't cheat on me, but she helped someone cheat. She lied, manipulated, and played along like it was a game. And I don't know how to come back from that. At 5 a.m., I still hadn't slept. I went to work early just to get out of the house and clear my head. I texted my brother who lives overseas and told him the wedding was off. He didn't ask questions, just said, "You work in a world full of liars. You wanted someone who wasn't." I get it. He was right. I work in special investigations. Insurance fraud? I spend my days digging through fake claims and catching people in lies. I never wanted that in my personal life. Elise was supposed to be my safe zone. Later that morning, I sat in a Zoom meeting with a fake smile, chugging coffee just to stay upright. But my brain was spinning in 10 directions at once. What do I do now? How do I tell Caleb? How do I explain to my family that the wedding's canceled without dragging everyone through the mud? I decided to call in sick, got in my car, and drove to Caleb's place. He answered the door looking half dead. Their daughter was napping. He offered me coffee, but I couldn't stomach another drop. "Man, I said we need to talk." The conversation that followed brutal. Caleb had suspected something for a while. He'd even brought it up to Mia once, but she shut him down so hard he started questioning his own sanity. I showed him screenshots. Not all of them, just enough. He sat there silently scrolling, nodding, jaw clenched so tight I could see the vein in his neck pulsing. "I knew it," he whispered. "We made a plan. Nothing dramatic, just the truth. I was going to help him find out who the guy was. I had contacts, tools. I've tracked fraud rings across state lines. One cheating coworker wasn't going to be a problem." Meanwhile, I was rebooking my non-honeymoon. My brother's family was headed to Florida. I'll be joining them instead. Elise's ticket, I changed it and gave it to my sister. I haven't told Elise yet, haven't canceled the venues officially, but that's coming. Soon. I'm going to have to face her. Tell her it's over. That no matter how much I loved her, this isn't something I can overlook. She didn't sleep with anyone else. But she made it easy for someone to betray their family. And never once did she stop to consider how wrong it was. Maybe that's worse. The weirdest part about betrayal. It makes you hyper-aware of everything. Every word, every pause, every flicker in someone's expression. Your brain suddenly runs like it's trying to crack a code you didn't even know existed. After leaving Caleb's house that morning, I went straight into detective mode. Not because I wanted revenge. Not even because I was angry yet. I just needed clarity. I needed truth. And truth, it turns out, is always hiding in plain sight. We had a name. Mia had slipped once and referred to her coworker as Ben. That was all Caleb had to go on. A first name. Luckily, I don't need much more than that. I've tracked fraudulent workers' comp claimants through 3 counties using a blurry LinkedIn photo and a half-baked job title. I called in a favor from my old coworker Jace. He works freelance, now tech security, consulting mostly gray hat stuff. I told him the situation. No names, no drama. Just that I needed to know who Mia was seeing. And fast. He was in. Meanwhile, Caleb and I went to Mia's office building. One of those bland suburban complexes with beige walls and a parking lot full of Teslas and dented Honda Civics. We found her car right where she always parked it. Caleb had a spare key, so I handed him a GPS tracker and a tiny recorder. We weren't setting her up. We were setting him up. While we waited in my car down the street, Jace texted me a profile. Ben S. 26, junior marketing analyst, married with a 1-year-old daughter. He had photos, a work email, a wedding registry, the whole digital trail. This guy had a lot to lose. And yet he was casually risking it all for stolen kisses and fake overtime. About an hour later, Mia walked out of her building with 2 coworkers, both women and Ben. Tall, slightly awkward posture, wavy blonde hair. Bingo. They walked to the bar across the street. One of those overpriced grill and gastropub joints that tries to be both fancy and casual but fails at both. I hung back while my friend Ryan went in first. Ryan doesn't know Mia or Ben. His job: snap some photos, play dumb, and text me the receipts. And boy did he deliver. Ben and Mia weren't being discreet. They weren't sitting in the dark corner. They weren't whispering over drinks. They were laughing, leaning into each other, making out in front of coworkers like this was some twisted rom-com. Ryan sent me 3 pictures, then a text. They're practically undressing with their eyes. Got what you need. I did, but Caleb didn't. He wanted more. He wanted confirmation, a name, a face, a timeline. I understood. I mean, if someone broke your trust, wouldn't you want to see the blade before it went in? So I walked into the bar. I made eye contact with Mia right away. She stiffened. Her smile died halfway. She introduced me quickly. "Oh, this is Marcus, my sister's fiancé." Everyone at the table murmured congratulations. I played along, smiled, shook hands. When I reached Ben, I offered my full name and waited. "Ben Stanford," he replied, shaking my hand. "Yep, that was our guy." I played it cool, said I was waiting for a coworker. Ryan waved at me from the other side of the bar like we'd planned. I excused myself, walked over and sat next to him. We waited. Mia kept glancing at us like we were about to pull out a megaphone. I didn't. I just sipped my soda and kept my eyes where she could see them. After about 20 minutes, I had what I needed. Mia was squirming. Ben looked uncomfortable. The vibe at their table had shifted, and I was the reason. I texted Caleb, "Tell her you're staying at your parents' with the baby. Say you'll be back late." 2 minutes later, Mia checked her phone. I watched her show Ben something. Their whole group wrapped up in a hurry. Mia even had the audacity to walk by me and say, "We should all do dinner this weekend. You and Elise, us, the whole crew." I smiled. "That sounds great." They left. We followed. Back at Caleb's place, we parked down the street and waited. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, Ben pulled into the driveway and knocked on the front door. Mia let him in. Not even subtle. At that point, I stepped back. Caleb had what he needed. It wasn't up to me to kick the door in or play emotional mediator. I told him to record everything if he could. Then I grabbed my gear from Mia's car and left. Now came the hard part. Facing Elise. That night I got home a little after 9 p.m. I half expected Elise to be asleep. Instead, I walked into a scene that felt like a twisted sitcom pilot. There she was on the couch, next to Mia. Both red-eyed, sniffling, holding mugs of tea like they'd just been personally victimized by the universe. I stood there in the doorway for maybe 3 full seconds. Long enough for Elise to register the look on my face. "Marcus," she started setting her cup down. "Don't," I said. I wasn't shouting, but my voice could have cut glass. Mia tried to excuse herself. I stepped aside, let her pass. She avoided eye contact, rushed past me like I might say something that would shatter whatever illusion she'd been living in. I walked over to Elise, sat down in the armchair across from her. "We need to talk," I said. She nodded, quiet. "I know," she whispered. I saw the texts. I continued. "All of them. The ones you sent Mia. The jokes, the lies, the cover-ups." Her face crumbled. "I didn't know what else to do," she said. "No," I cut in. "You chose what to do, for 6 months." She didn't fight it, didn't deny it, and maybe that made it worse. What followed was one of the most painful conversations of my life. There were tears, hers, not mine. There were apologies. She said she never meant to hurt me. Said she thought she was just being a good sister, that she didn't want to be the reason Caleb and Mia's marriage collapsed. And me, I asked, what was I collateral? She didn't answer. Eventually, I told her it was over. The wedding, us, everything, that I couldn't marry someone who watched someone else's life burn down and brought marshmallows. "I never lied to you, Marcus," she said through tears. "But you lied to yourself," I said, "and that's worse." I left that night, packed a bag, texted my family the next morning to cancel everything. Told them the truth, but only in broad strokes. Elise wasn't the one who cheated, but she was the one who made it possible. And I couldn't build a life on top of that. It's been 4 days now. I'm crashing with Ryan for the time being. I canceled the venue, the caterer, the DJ. I'm keeping the honeymoon trip though, just not with Elise. My sister's joining me instead. We'll go to Florida, eat too much, maybe ride roller coasters until the nausea drowns everything out. I don't know if Elise will ever understand what she did. Not really. And that's not my job anymore. You'd think calling off a wedding would be the hard part. Nope. Turns out explaining why you called off the wedding is the real beast, especially when you're trying to keep things honest, without blowing up every relationship around you. The morning after I told Elise it was over, I sent a mass text to close friends and family. Something calm, controlled, not even dramatic. The wedding has been canceled. It's not due to infidelity, but it is related to trust. I appreciate your support and understanding while I get some space. Within 10 minutes, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. My mom was the first to call, nearly in tears. Not because of the money, not even because of Elise, just worry. She'd grown to love Elise over the years, and I could hear her heartbreak behind every cautious question. "Is she okay?" "She's upset," I said. "What happened?" "I'll tell you when I can." Next came my uncle, who by the way had already flown in from out of state for the wedding. Then my college buddy Jared. My godfather. Elise's aunt. It was like a sympathy hotline, each call more awkward than the last. And with every conversation, I had to walk this delicate line between truth and diplomacy. Because here's the thing, I didn't want to ruin Elise's reputation. As much as she disappointed me, I still remembered the version of her I loved, the one who used to hum while making pancakes, who'd talk to the neighbor's dog like it was fluent in sarcasm, who painted tiny constellations on our bedroom ceiling because I said I missed the stars. She wasn't evil, but she made a series of selfish, damaging choices, and now we were both standing in the wreckage. That afternoon, Caleb texted me. It's done. She admitted everything. Thank you, man. I couldn't have done this without you. I stared at that message for a long time. It felt like closure and weight all at once. Later that day, I got another call. This time from Elise's mom. She sounded calm, too calm. Marcus, she said, I want to talk to you about what happened. Elise is devastated. I'm sure she is, I replied. She says she didn't cheat. She didn't, I confirmed. Then why cancel the wedding? People make mistakes. She was protecting her sister. No, I said sharply. She was protecting a lie. There was a pause. Then she sighed, the kind of sigh that carries more judgment than any sentence ever could. Well, she said, I hope this isn't something you regret in 10 years. I already regret waiting this long to see her for who she really is. She hung up without saying goodbye. And just like that, I knew I wasn't just walking away from a wedding. I was walking away from a family that had normalized dishonesty. That thought loyalty meant covering up betrayal instead of standing up for what's right. 2 days later, I went back to the house. Elise wasn't there. Her car was gone, but I could tell she'd been packing. There were boxes stacked neatly by the door, some labeled wedding returns, others with her name scrawled in Sharpie. I walked through the house slowly. It was eerie how quiet everything was. The kind of silence that hums louder than any sound. The photos on the wall felt like ghosts. The chalkboard with our countdown to the wedding still there. 10 days scrawled in pink. I wiped it clean with my palm. Upstairs, I found a note on the nightstand. Handwritten, no envelope. Marcus, I don't know how to make this right. I thought I was helping Mia stay afloat. I didn't realize I was sinking us. You always saw the best in me. I wish I'd earned it. I love you. I'm sorry. I folded the note and tucked it into my jacket pocket. Not because I planned to keep it forever, but because some wounds don't scar unless you let them air out first. I grabbed what I needed and left. I wish I could say the days that followed were full of peace and clarity. They weren't. I spent hours fielding messages, canceling bookings, dealing with joint purchases and shared responsibilities. The mortgage was in my name, thankfully. Elise had contributed to the down payment, so I agreed to pay her back her portion over time. She didn't fight me on it. We kept everything cold, civil, legal. But beneath that, there was this persistent ache. Not because I wanted her back, but because I didn't want to remember her like this. It's one thing to lose someone. It's another thing to realize they were never who you thought they were. 3 nights after the split, I sat at Ryan's place flipping through old pictures on my phone. Our first vacation, her goofy expression on my birthday, the way she used to tuck her feet under me on the couch like I was part of the furniture. And in that moment, I realized something painful but necessary. I wasn't mourning Elise. I was mourning the version of me that believed people like her didn't lie. That trust was enough. That love made people honest. The next morning, I went to the local courthouse. Not for a lawsuit, not for drama, just to legally revoke our wedding license application. I handed over the paperwork. The clerk barely blinked. Name of your partner, Elise Templeton. She clicked a few keys. Canceled, she said. Refunds partial. Figures, I said with a half smile. Even breakups are bureaucratic. That weekend, my sister flew in early. We sat in a cafe sipping overpriced lattes. I knew something felt off, she said quietly. Not with you two, but with her. She never really opened up to me, or Mom. I thought she was just private. Maybe. Or maybe she was hiding who she really was. I nodded. You know what the worst part is? What? She was a good partner to me, funny, loving, never crossed a line. So what changed? I looked at her. I did. Later that evening, I opened Instagram and posted one picture. Just one. The fire pit I'd finished in our backyard. No caption. Just a photo of the flames flickering against the dark. It wasn't meant for anyone in particular, but it felt symbolic. The fire still burns, even when everything else has turned to ash. A week after everything fell apart, I found myself walking the beach in Florida. The honeymoon Elise and I were supposed to be on, I still took it. Just swapped out the bride for my sister, our rental car for a bright red Jeep, and the romantic itinerary for churros, laughter, and roller coasters that made us both scream. Laugh like kids. It wasn't the trip I'd planned. But in some strange way, it was exactly the one I needed. For the first time in months, I felt light. Not happy, not yet, but lighter. Like I'd finally stopped carrying someone else's choices on my back. We were sitting at a pier bar the night before our flight home when I got a text from Elise. It had been quiet between us. Silent, really. No calls, no begging, no drawn-out back and forth, just paperwork, logistics, and space. But there it was. Can we talk just once? No drama, I promise. I stared at the screen for a long time. My sister caught my expression and raised an eyebrow. Elise? I nodded. You gonna call her? I shrugged. Not tonight. I wasn't ready. And more importantly, I didn't need to be. Back home, I returned to the house alone. It felt different now. Quieter, cleaner, not just physically but emotionally. I boxed up the last of Elise's stuff and had a courier deliver it to her new place. No note, no final words. Everything that needed to be said had been said or shown. I threw myself into work, cleaned up the garden, finally painted the garage door like I'd been putting off for 6 months. My therapist, yes, I got one, suggested building a new routine to ground myself again. So I did. It helped. I started running again, cooking, calling my mom more, reconnecting with people I'd unconsciously distanced myself from during the engagement. One night I was out for drinks with friends when I ran into Caleb. He looked tired, but there was a quiet strength behind his eyes I hadn't seen before. Mia moved out, he said after we hugged, staying at her mom's. I'm sorry. He shook his head. Don't be. I'm relieved. How's your daughter? Confused. But okay, we're figuring it out. He hesitated, then added, You know, it's weird. I used to think Mia was the strongest person I knew. Turns out she was just good at making me feel weak. I felt that deep in my chest. That kind of strength, I said. It's just smoke. Real strength's what you do after the fire. He nodded slowly. You doing okay? I smiled. Getting there. A few weeks later, Elise and I met for coffee. Neutral ground, public, no expectations. She looked thinner. Her hair was tied back like it always was when she was nervous. Thank you for coming, she said. I nodded. You asked. I figured you deserved a final page. She didn't waste time. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know I've been in therapy, trying to understand why I thought covering for Mia was somehow noble. It wasn't, I said gently. It was cowardice in disguise. I know that now. There was a long pause. Then she said the thing I'd been quietly hoping for but never expected to hear. I was wrong. I betrayed what we had. Not because I cheated, but because I made a mockery of the honesty you gave me every day. I looked at her, and for the first time since this all began, I didn't feel anger, just finality. I loved you, I said. Still might in that weird somewhere in the bones kind of way. But love without respect, it's like trying to build a house on sand. She blinked fast. I keep thinking about the night you walked in. The look on your face, that moment I realized I'd lost something I didn't even know I'd taken for granted. I stood up, put a $5 bill on the table for the coffee neither of us had touched. You didn't just lose me, Elise. You lost the version of you that I believed in, and that you'll have to find on your own. She didn't follow me when I walked away. That was growth, for both of us. In the months that followed, life stabilized. Nothing epic, no sudden love story, no viral glow-up. Just peace. One night I got an email from the DJ we'd booked for the wedding. He'd never officially deleted our file. He just wanted to make sure I didn't need the playlist we'd worked on for months. I opened the link out of curiosity. There it was. Our first dance song. Our walk down the aisle track. The one Elise picked for the father-daughter dance. It hit like a punch to the gut. Not because I missed her, but because those songs had been written for a version of us that never truly existed. I hit delete, closed the tab, took a breath, and then I opened Spotify and made a new playlist. This time it was all mine. 6 months post-breakup, I hosted a bonfire at the house. The fire pit was perfect. Everyone brought drinks, snacks, stories. There was laughter, music. Someone even roasted pineapple slices on skewers, and now I'm obsessed. At one point, my best friend clinked a bottle of beer against mine and said, You seem good, man, like, really good. I nodded. I am. He smiled. Think you'll start dating again soon? Maybe, I said, but only if it feels like starting a story, not escaping the last one. Last week, I got a card in the mail. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. It was from Elise. Inside one sentence, "Thank you for letting me burn. I finally stopped pretending the ashes were roses. No name, no follow-up. Just that. And weirdly, it gave me more closure than any apology ever could. So here I am. Not married, not broken, not bitter. Just building again. The pergola out back finished. The fire pit still in use. The memories still present but no longer in control. I've stopped needing a villain in this story. Sometimes people don't destroy you on purpose. Sometimes they're just too lost to realize they're taking you down with them. But here's what I know now. You can't fix someone by absorbing their secrets. You can't build a life with someone who doesn't believe in emotional honesty. And most importantly, walking away doesn't make you weak. It means you're finally strong enough to stop shrinking to fit someone else's lies. And that's how I canceled my wedding. Not because she cheated on me, but because she helped her sister do it. And that was enough. Because trust, it's not just about what someone does to you. It's about what they're willing to do to anyone.